I always knew the HOA at Maple Ridge Estates had an inflated sense of power, but until they bulldozed my family's old barn, I didn't realize just how far they'd go. I live on 40 acres my grandfather bought back when this land was nothing but pasture and oaks. Then came the master-planned community, cookie-cutter mansions, iron gates, matching mailboxes, and an HOA board drunk on their own rules. They tried for years to drag me into their web, threatening me over my unpaved drive, complaining my livestock was an eyesore, and once even claiming my roosters violated their quiet hours. I ignored them. My property line was clear as daylight. I owed them nothing. But last spring, I went to visit my sister out of state for a week. When I came home, I found a smoking crater where my grandfather's old red barn had stood for 80 years. Turns out the HOA decided the barn was abandoned and a safety hazard, so they hired a contractor without a single word to me and leveled it while I was gone. They even left a letter in my mailbox. Consider this a necessary improvement to community aesthetics. Please see enclosed invoice for demolition costs, $12,450. I nearly dropped when I read that. Not only did they destroy my barn, they wanted me to pay for it. I called the sheriff. He took one look at my deed and said it was a civil matter. I called 3 lawyers. Each said I could sue, but it'd drag on for months, maybe years. Meanwhile, the HOA crowed about cleaning up the neighborhood. So I figured if they wanted my barn gone, they could see what it was holding in. My barn had been my holding pen for the 4 big bulls I breed. Massive, stubborn boys named Bandit, Tank, Moose, and Rocket. With the barn gone, they now had nothing but flimsy corral fencing between them and the fancy rose garden the HOA spent $50,000 planting last summer. So one sunny morning, I made sure the corral gate accidentally swung open. Ever seen 4 2,000-pound bulls discover a buffet of imported roses, boxwoods, and ornamental koi ponds? It's glorious. They stomped through that pristine garden like it was a snack bar. Bandit lay down in the middle of the gazebo. Tank dunked half his head in the koi pond, slurping water while Rocket rooted up the tulip beds like a plow on legs. I stood by the old fence, sipping coffee and tipping my hat to every HOA board member who showed up screaming. They called animal control, but it's a small town, and the officers know my bulls. They just shrugged and said, "Well, you tore down his barn. Where else you expect them to go?" The HOA tried to threaten me with fines, again, so I handed them my lawyer's fresh cease and desist letter. Turns out tearing down private property without a court order is trespassing and destruction of property. My lawyer loved the photos of the bulls in the rose garden. He said the judge would too. In the end, the HOA quietly agreed to rebuild my barn and pay for it. Brand new lumber, custom stalls, even a fresh tin roof. They also agreed to run a new privacy fence along the garden edge, sturdy enough to keep the bulls out, if I feel like keeping that corral gate shut. The new barn went up last month. It's better than the old one, truth be told. Granddad would have laughed himself silly at the idea that a bunch of HOA busybodies funded his old ranch's facelift. The rose garden? Well, the HOA replaced the flowers, but every so often I find Bandit eyeing the fence like he's plotting a return trip. I just give him a scratch behind the ear and say, "Next time, buddy. Next time."